The desert heard the pain of my heart. Long before my lips learned how to speak. Felt the weight in my chest. When the world mistook my silence for strength. I walked beneath a sky without borders, carrying a sorrow that refused to rest. Each grain of sand knew my story. Each wind carried a fragment of my grief. I whispered names that no longer answer, dreams that faded like distant stars. The desert did not laugh at my weakness. It opened its arms in endless patience. The sun burned my skin, yet it could not burn my memories. They stayed, sharp and tender, etched deeper than footprints in sand. At night, the moon became my mirror, showing me a face shaped by longing. I confessed what pride would not allow, and the silence listened faithfully. My tears fell unseen, but the earth felt every drop. They vanished into the sand, as if pain, too, could be absorbed. I told the desert about love that left, about promises that turned to dust. I spoke of waiting, and how waiting slowly breaks the soul. The wind answered in soft sighs, as if saying, "You are not alone." Even emptiness has a heart, even loneliness has a voice. I sat where time stands still, where yesterday and tomorrow dissolve. There, my heart loosened its grip on sorrow. If only for a breath, if only for a moment. The desert did not heal me completely, but it taught me how to endure. It showed me that vastness can hold pain, without collapsing under its weight. When I rose to leave, I was still broken, still aching, yet lighter than before, as if my heart had been heard. The desert remained behind me, quiet, endless, understanding. And somewhere between sand and sky, my pain finally found a place to rest. I walked again, deeper into its silence, where even shadows speak in whispers. My heartbeat echoed like a distant drum, steady, tired, refusing to surrender. The horizon stretched like an unanswered prayer, always near, never reached. I learned there that hope can hurt, yet living without it hurts more. The sand warmed my wounded feet, as if comforting an old traveler. Every step reminded me that moving forward is its own kind of courage. I remembered hands I once held, now only air between my fingers. The desert watched without pity, teaching me loss does not ask permission. Night wrapped the land in quiet blue, stars blooming like unspoken wishes. I offered my pain to the constellations, and they blinked back in ancient understanding. I asked the desert why hearts break, why love leaves scars instead of shelter. It answered with stillness, the kind that forces truth to rise. In that stillness, I faced myself, stripped of titles, stripped of lies. Just a soul, tired of carrying storms, longing for a gentler dawn. I lay upon the sand like a fallen leaf, trusting the earth to hold me. For the first time, I did not fight my tears. I let them fall where they belonged. The desert drank them quietly, never asking me to be strong. And in that wordless mercy, my heart learned how to breathe again. Dawn arrived slowly, like forgiveness that takes time to grow. The sky softened its colors, and my sorrow loosened its grip. I watched light touch the dunes, turning wounds into gold for a moment. It reminded me that pain, too, can be transformed without disappearing. I gathered my broken thoughts, not to fix them, but to carry them with honesty. Even fragments deserve respect. The desert stood unchanged, yet I was no longer the same. Something inside me had shifted, like sand after a quiet storm. I left a part of my heart there, buried beneath patience and heat, not as a loss, but as a promise to return stronger. As I walked away, the wind followed briefly, brushing my back like a blessing, then letting me go. The desert did not say goodbye. It never does. It simply remains, waiting for the next wounded soul, who needs to be heard. Even as distance grew behind me, the desert stayed within my chest. Its silence became my language, its patience my quiet guide. In crowded rooms, I carried its vastness in my breath. When voices pressed too close, I remembered open skies. At night, when memories returned, sharp as cold sand under bare feet, I closed my eyes and felt the desert listening again. I learned that healing is not forgetting, but learning where to place the pain. Some sorrows belong to wide spaces, not to fragile human hearts. The desert taught me restraint, how not to spill grief on every word. It showed me strength. That does not need applause. I began to speak less, but mean more with every silence. Like dunes shaped by wind, my heart learned a slower rhythm. Sometimes, I still ache for what was lost. The ache arrives without warning, but it no longer terrifies me, because I know where to take it. I take it back to that endless land, where sorrow is not a burden, where the earth is strong enough to hold what humans cannot, and there, in memory and breath, the desert still hears me, faithful, vast, unmoved, holding the pain of my heart, without ever letting it fall. Years may pass like drifting sand, yet that silence never leaves me. It settles in my veins, steady as an ancient oath. When the world demands answers, I remember questions need not be solved. Some truths are meant to be carried, not explained. I have learned to walk gently now, aware of how easily hearts crack. The desert taught me this mercy, by holding my own without judgment. I no longer beg the night for sleep. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, I sit with my thoughts like old companions. Sometimes joy visits unexpectedly, brief as desert rain. I do not chase it in fear of loss. I let it soak in and pass. Love, when it returns, will find a quieter home in me. No shouting, no chance. Just space enough to breathe. If pain returns, and it will, I will not curse it. I will guide it gently to the place that once saved me. Because somewhere beyond memory, beneath a sky too wide to measure, the desert still waits, listening as it always has. And when my heart grows heavy again, I know where to lay it down, on the patient earth, where silence understands everything I cannot say. There are mornings when my chest feels hollow, as if something important forgot to return. On those days I breathe slowly, the way the desert taught me. I remember how nothing there rushes, not the sun, not the wind, not the stars. Everything arrives when it is ready, even healing. I have stopped arguing with fate. The desert showed me that resistance only deepens the wounds. Acceptance, however quiet, softens them. Sometimes I miss who I used to be, the one who believed love never ends. But I honor that version of myself, for innocence is not a mistake. The desert keeps no record of failure. It does not shame broken travelers. It only offers space, and space is a rare mercy. I carry that mercy now, into conversations, into goodbyes. I let people be who they are, even when they cannot stay. When grief visits uninvited, I no longer lock the door. I sit with it, as I once sat with endless sand. Slowly, I have learned this truth. Pain does not want to destroy us. It wants to be witnessed, to be allowed its moment of honesty. The desert gave my pain that moment, and in return, it gave me a heart that knows how to survive quietly, love gently, and endure without losing itself. So I walk forward now, not healed, not broken, just human. And somewhere behind my steps, the desert still listens, holding the pain of my heart, as if it were something sacred. Sometimes I pause in the middle of life, between one breath and the next, and I feel that old stillness return, the same stillness that once saved me. It arrives quietly, without warning or demand, reminding me that strength does not always roar. I have learned not to fear emptiness. The desert taught me that empty places are not voids. They are waiting rooms for truth. In those moments I close my eyes and see dunes rising like prayers, unchanged by footsteps, unmoved by passing sorrow. I understand now why the desert never spoke back. It knew answers can become cages, while silence keeps us free. The heart grows tired of explaining itself. It longs for a place where it can simply exist, untranslated, unjudged. That place lives inside me now. A wide, quiet space where pain can sit down, rest and soften. I no longer chase happiness. as if it were an escape. I welcome it when it comes, and bless it when it leaves. Life continues, uneven and imperfect. Some days are heavy, some days light as wind. Both are allowed. And when my heart aches again, because it always will, I remember the lesson written in sand. Nothing stays forever, not even pain. The desert heard the pain of my heart, and in hearing it, taught me how to listen to myself. That is the gift I carry forward, quiet, enduring, as endless as the horizon. There are evenings when the sky turns the color of old wounds, and my heart recognizes it immediately. In that fading light, I remember how sorrow once felt infinite. I smile gently at that memory, not because it no longer hurts, but because it no longer controls me. The desert taught me that distance. I have learned to forgive myself, for the nights I broke, for the tears I thought were weakness, for the love I gave too deeply. Even sand, under enough pressure, becomes something precious. Pain works the same way, if we survive it long enough. I walk through life now, with quieter expectations. I do not demand permanence from things meant to pass. When people leave, I let them go with grace. The desert showed me that holding too tightly only creates storms. I still love, carefully, honestly, fully, but I leave space for breathing, for silence, for truth. And sometimes, in the stillest hours, I feel the earth listening again. Not beneath my feet this time, but within my soul. The desert did not erase my pain. It honored it, and by honoring it, taught me how to live with a heart that has been broken, and yet remains open. As time moves on, I realize the desert never belonged to one place. It followed me into seasons, into choices, into quiet transformations. I find it in pauses between words, in the courage to remain calm. When emotions try to overflow, silence has become my shelter. I no longer measure life by milestones, but by moments of truth. When my heart speaks honestly, and I listen without fear, the desert taught me patience. With wounds that heal unevenly, some scars fade slowly, and that slowness is not failure. I have stopped asking why so often. The desert never asked why of the sun. It simply endured, trusting the rhythm of time. When loneliness visits now, I offer it a seat beside me. Together we watch the world pass, without resentment, without hurry. I understand now, not every ache needs a remedy. Some are reminders of how deeply we once lived. The desert heard the pain of my heart, and returned it to me refined, less sharp, more wise, still present but no longer cruel. So I continue walking, not toward an ending, but toward a wider understanding. Each step carries quiet strength, and somewhere beyond sight and sound, the desert remains, patient, endless, faithful, listening, always listening, to the heart that once cried, and learned how to endure. There is a softness now, where sharpness once lived. It did not come suddenly. It grew the way dawn grows, slow, almost unnoticed. I still carry memories, like stones warmed by the sun. They are no longer weapons, only reminders of where I have been. The desert taught me how to sit with myself, without reaching for escape. No noise, no disguise, just breath meeting breath. In that still meeting, I learned my worth was never borrowed. It did not come from love given or lost, but from simply being. I stopped asking others to hold what was always mine to carry. The desert showed me strength that does not lean yet does not harden. Some nights, sorrow returns quietly, sits at the edge of my thoughts. I do not push it away. I let it speak, then rest. I have learned that hearts do not need to be fearless, only willing to remain open. After being wounded, the desert heard the pain of my heart, and answered with space, not solutions. In that space, I became my own shelter. Now, when I look toward the horizon, I do not search for rescue. I walk with calm certainty, knowing I can survive vastness. And if my heart ever breaks again, as hearts often do, I will remember the sand, the silence, the land that listened without turning away. and I will endure, quietly, completely, just as the desert taught me.